Hey everybody, it's Saline County Hardliners back at you again. Uh, I'm Keith Kellum, co-host is Kevan Bradshaw, and tonight we got another local politician that's running a very important race here. Well, the central part of the state, mainly Saline County, goes out a little bit in Pulaski County, I believe. But we've been interviewing different people. We've had some the last couple of weeks. We're trying to catch everybody before early voting starts, which is only around the corner. I believe February 17th. It would have been 16th, President's Day, so I think they're starting on Tuesday. And it'll go 2 weeks until Election Day, which is March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd, first Tuesday of March. Tonight, we got a good friend of mine. We've known each other a couple of years, several years here. Randy Sams. He is running for State Senate seat District 16, which Kim Hammer holds at the moment. He is term limited out, and he's, as we know, running for Secretary of State. But Randy is running, and his opponent, I'll say his opponent, is the sheriff, county sheriff, and Rodney Wright. But we feel that Randy's got a whole lot to bring to this Senate. We need a lot of change in our Senate. We need a lot of change in our legislature, period. We got the same problems going on that the federal government, may be worse, because we got that purple government staring at all these red folks' face. So, Randy, how's it going tonight, buddy?
Going good, Keith. I appreciate you guys having me on. Hope everybody gets to see this and watch and kind of learn a little bit about who I am. I think that's the biggest question, people that besides yourself that have known me for a while, but a lot of people, when they sit down and we're able to have a conversation and they kind of find out my background, what's funny is that we've been here in Benton/Saline County since 1978. So what is that, 48 years?
Yeah.
But I still don't qualify to be, a Saline County guy, I guess. I don't know how long you got to live here. I guess you got to be 3 generations or whatever. But I was born right here. I was born in Little Rock. My dad was a Little Rock fireman for 35 years. My mom was a payroll clerk, so I'm middle class. Graduated from Little Rock Parkview, and then was going to school at University of Arkansas. And my dad decided to retire and move to Saline County. So we've been here since 1978. Met my lovely wife Marla, who is a Saline County young lady. She was born and raised here in Benton. Her family is from Bryant. The Pinkstons, a lot of people from Bryant understand who they are. But, it's been exciting. You and I both know, we both ran for JP. That's where we basically, we met each other going through the, what's now the dissolved Saline County Republican Committee. Okay.
Picked each other's brains a whole lot during that time.
Yeah. And we helped each other out. But, I'm excited about the race. Kim Hammer, like you said, is the sitting senator right now. He has that seat. He's been in the legislature for 16 years, and he is term limiting out. And when he decided that he put his hat in the ring for Secretary of State, and then my opponent, not too long after that, decided that he was going to, he put his name in the hat for the District 16 seat. And I waited, prayed about it, talked to some people. And it just came down to the point where, we got to be able to offer people a choice as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And if nothing ever changes, Keith, then nothing will ever change. And that's what I'm here to offer people is a change in the way things have been done, whether it be here in Saline County or whether it be in Little Rock. And there's been some really good things happen in both Saline County and also in Little Rock. But in the Senate race, this Senate race is very important because you got to realize there's only 35 senators. And even though I would be as elected the senator for District 16, my vote not only would affect what happens here in Saline County or part of Pulaski County, but it also affects the entire state. So it's a very important seat, like you said, because there's only 35 senators. There's 100 House reps, but only 35 senators. So again, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, and whatever questions you guys got, you can let me talk. You got questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I do want to make a statement that Randy is Randy is more of a politician he's not a politician, but a candidate that we need nowadays. You know, if we don't do something drastically in this country, in this state, we're going to lose it. And Randy is aware of this. A lot of these guys either don't care or not really aware of it or don't think it's real. And I know this for a fact. I'm not speaking for Randy, but we've talked enough. He knows that we're in peril and we got to really pay attention to what's going on. And the people want their government back because we're losing it to illegals. We're losing it to everybody but traditional, and I'm going to say it, traditional American folks, God-fearing folks that want to kind of keep America the way it is, which has got us where we are. So, Randy, just give us a kind of what are your passions in the Senate? You get the Senate. What are some of the things that you see wrong with the Senate that you would like to help change?
Well, let me before I jump into that, and we'll talk about two or three of the platforms that I feel very passionate about. But you know, I've been out knocking on doors probably 5-6 months now. Okay, and I always get the question. A lot of people want to know, well, why are you running? Okay, some people think you're crazy. Why would you want to do this? But if we don't get the right people in the Senate and the House, Keith, nothing's going to change. That's what I'm saying. Okay?
You got to start somewhere.
If you don't get the right people, the right person, whether it be male or female, in the Senate seat or a House seat, that's actually going to listen to the desires and concerns of the people, the constituents, then nothing's going to change. But for me, what I tell people is this: I'm running to be the common sense Christian conservative voice for District 16. All right. I tell people the seat belongs to the people, not to an individual, not to a party, and definitely not to special interest. All right. I believe that the people deserve the representation. They want to have somebody, a candidate that ends up being elected in that Senate seat that is going to represent them versus special interest or PAC money or whatever you want to do. So I believe that they should be able to expect it, and they should be able to receive what they deserve. And that is somebody that's going to represent them and not anything. Because I tell people, look, I believe as a senator that I've got to do the best. I've got to work for both the people and for the businesses in District 16 and also for the state of Arkansas. Because as you know, there's a lot of votes that tried to go through in the general session in 2025 that would affect the entire state of Arkansas, not just District 16, okay? I believe that we need to rein in a little bit of the government. I mean, I'm a conservative, and as a conservative, do we believe in big government or smaller government? Small, less government, right? I believe that that's what we should be focused on. And as an example, in the general session for 2023, there were, let me get my numbers right here, there were 1,600 bills that were presented in the general session. Almost 900 of those became law. That was in 2023. In 2025 general session, there were 1,900 bills that were presented, and 1,026 became law. So you put those together, we have, in those two general sessions, we have almost 2,000 laws, acts that are now enacted. So where do you think all those came from? Do you think they came from just you and me and Kevin or somebody else that were listening? You think we're sitting around the donut shop talking about, oh, we need to do this? No, these bills are getting created because you got so much special interest that want this to happen and that to happen. And for me, I feel like that as a conservative, we're not supposed to have the government. We're supposed to be less government instead of more government. We're supposed to be more freedom and less government. Okay.
But say one thing. You'll see, me and you both went to a lot of sessions this last session,
Yep.
And I hadn't gone in a long time. I really watched this time, spoke at a couple of them. And, they complain about, well, we don't have time to get to this. We don't have time to get to that. And we're talking about very important topics. That they say time. or they'll run them all the way up. If it's something that the establishment does not want, they'll run it up to late where nobody will show back up to vote for it, and it gets smudged. I watched that happen on some very important bills, like library money, things like that. And if they would get rid of, but then again, I watch at the beginning. If you get rid of some of that fluff crap, that I call it fluff, just meaningless bills, that and they do the same thing I know in the Senate, but meaningless crap, which comes from lobbyists, and get down to business and get down to important things. Like, I'm going to also say that our current senator, I know you're not running against him, but he created some terrible bills, terrible. And you know that, and you know what I'm talking about. And I think a lot of the public knows about it, about his war on voter integrity. He calls it, I call it a war on it. Well, to me, in my opinion, and I'm not saying anything against Rodney Wright personally, I'm just saying that I think it's going to be more the same if he was elected. And with Randy, it's not going to be the case. He's not going to be intimidated. I feel like I know the man real well. He's not going to be intimidated. He's not going to follow the crowd. And, there's probably only, I would say, I don't know all the senators, and correct me if you don't think I'm wrong. I would say there's only probably, I don't know if there's a handful, five true senators that really are looking out for the people and not looking out for the governor and the executive branch agenda and the lobbyists. I'm done.
Well, no, I mean, you're on the right track. Here's what you had to look at. So if you look at the general session in 2025, and let's just take, I mean, one of the hot topics right now is the Franklin County Prison. All right. And so a lot of people don't know that, just for the people that are listening. In 2023, when they began talking about the mega prison, they were looking at $450 million. That was in 2023. Mm-hmm. In 2025, the general session, in 2 years, that jumped up to $875 million. All right. Now, they tried to get the funding passed in the Senate. Guess how many times they tried to pass the funding, Keith? 5. Guess how many times it failed? 5. Okay. Now, but let me show you the thin margin here. There are 35 senators, and that's why I said earlier on, the one seat, District 16, can affect what happens in the entire state. It can affect your tax money, my tax money, what's going to happen in the future. There's 35 senators, 21 of them.
It's a highly visible district.
Yeah, 21 of them, Keith, voted to fund the prison. So how many voted against it or said no? That was 14, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how many senators in the Senate out of 35, how many are Democrat? 7. Okay. So that means that there were 7 Republicans that voted no on the funding. And they voted no on the funding all 5 times. Okay. The current senator in this seat voted yes.
Absolutely.
For that funding. My opponent has already come out. He's going to be a yes for the funding. Okay. Me, I've already made it known that I'm a no. Let me say this. You're going to say, well, you're afraid against prison. No, people that know me, I've been in prison ministry for 25 years.
Yeah, a lot of prison. Okay?
So I understand the workings of a prison, the inside workings. I get to go inside the prisons. Okay. Luckily for me, they let me come out. All right. So, but if someone were to ask me, do we need additional bed space? I would say more than likely we do. There's some things that we could do to probably stop people from actually having to be incarcerated, but that's another subject. What I look at is you have to look at, does it make logistical sense? Does it make financial sense? If you look at the location that the Franklin prison is proposed, that location, Keith, was never on the final list of possible sites. It just showed up overnight one day. They cut a $3 million check and they got 850 acres on top of a mountain in Franklin County. Okay. It doesn't have the road systems. It's 25 miles from the interstate. It's 45 minutes from a hospital. It doesn't have water. for a 3,000 bed prison, you're going to have anywhere from 350,000 to 500,000 gallons of water on a daily basis. It can't maintain that. Okay. So here's what I'm saying is that you need to look at that as a constituent, as a voter, as a citizen of the state of Arkansas. Why did it jump from 450 to 875? And they haven't, all they've done right now is they've moved one culvert and they spent $1 million so far. Okay. If it's going to take 5 years to build and they're saying it's 875 now, how much is it actually going to cost? $1.5 billion, $2 billion? But the question is not just how it's going to be built and where's the money going to come from. It's going to take probably over 50 million a year just to maintain the prison. It's going to take 800 to 850 employees to maintain that prison. You don't have the population base to do that, okay? But I've got down in those weeds, but what you have to realize is that this seat is so important because if that vote continues to be a yes, and right now there are 4 Senate districts in the state of Arkansas that out-of-state dark money has focused on, all right? Mm-hmm. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on mailers. A couple of the districts, they are attacking the current senators. One of them is Brian King, Senator Brian King, who's been very outspoken.
He's one of our probably one better.
Okay. The other one is Ron Caldwell, who's in District 10, Eastern Arkansas. He's also been vocal against, and he's also said that he's planning on running as Senate Pro Temp, which right now the Senate Pro Temp is Hester. Okay. And so you got to look at those. And so since those 2 sitting senators have voted no against that prison, somebody's unhappy with them, and they've got all this dark money coming in from out of state that are sending out negative mailers against them, okay, saying false things about them. Okay.
Are they both up for re-election this time, or are they not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, both of them are. Yeah, both of them. Okay. Now, one of the other Senate districts was Gary Stubblefield, who passed away, and he's in Franklin County.
And he was a big opponent.
Okay, and he was a big opponent of it. They just had the runoff, and
we lost a good one there.
Wade Dunn lost, and Wade Dunn was the one that the dark money attacked also. Well, Stubblefield was a fantastic guy. Okay.
The election on Wade Dunn, that's a different story.
But you got Brad Simon won the runoff, and now he's going to be in a primary race against Adam Watson in Senate District 26, who's an independent. Okay, but let's get back on track on Senate District 16. So the 4th Senate district is my district, our district, District 16. Okay, now so far for me, there have not been any negative mailers or text messages being sent out against me. Okay, all the out-of-state dark money mailers and text messages have been in support of my opponent. Okay, right. So you got to ask the people that are listening. You got to, constituents of District 16. Do you want to be swayed by out of state? Do you want your candidates to be swayed and be beholden to out of state dark money PACs? These PACs aren't even registered in the state of Arkansas, and they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on every one of these races against me, supporting my opponent and the other 3 district races. Okay. So that to me, it tells me that there's no such thing as free money. So if you understand that a candidate is being supported by out-of-state dark money, by a PAC, or even in-state PACs, at some point in time, you got to pay the piper, right? They're going to want you to vote a certain way on a certain bill.
You got to pay the piper, or they're going to work against you.
Yeah, well, and that's what you see happening right now against Senator King and Senator Caldwell, is that they basically have voted against what the top level people wanted. They want that prison for whatever reason in Franklin County. They voted against it. They're standing against it and said, okay, we're going to primary you. Okay. So that's what that's what you got to look at, is that if you want to see a difference between myself and my opponent, just look at the campaign funding, and you're going to see that my campaign funding has come from grassroots people, and my opponent's funding is he's got PAC after PAC after PAC that supports him. So that's going to be one big difference. But you asked earlier. Let me back up. I want people to understand why I feel like I'm qualified, more qualified than my opponent. Now, I've been on the business side. I've been in insurance and finance for 40 years. Okay. I learned early on how to work with people, how to talk with people, how to communicate with people, how to get things done. So the last 18 years of my career, I was president of the senior division for Transamerica, one of the largest insurance companies in the nation. All right. I had over 45,000 agents. We had like 25, 30 marketing organizations. I had 13 VPs. So I learned how to work with people, but I also learned how to create. And that's something that you're going to have to realize. There's a lot of difference in enforcing law and creating law. Okay. Absolutely. And my business background gives me the advantage in the fact that when you're president of a large division, I got a multi-million-dollar budget. I'm expected to come in under budget, not over budget. I'm involved in the creation of products, distribution of products, working with different departments. And being able to see that. So when I left Transamerica, when I started, I should say, we were doing about $13 million a year. When I left in 2014, as far as retiring, we were doing about $350 million, somewhere in that range. Okay. And that's with mainly senior products, Medicare, long-term care, annuities, retirement, different stuff like that. But that's what I feel like gives me a good background, an advantage over my opponent. And in 2014, when I retired, I started my own retirement planning business. So that's what I've been doing since 2014, is working with people, getting them set up for a secure retirement, okay, working with most people. So that's what I feel like gives me the advantage, is I understand business. I've been on the working with independent people, helping families out, where my opponent has been on the, what do you want to call it, the public dole all this time, okay? And I'm not slamming him. I support first responder. I'm a first responder kid myself. My daddy was a fireman for 35 years. So I'm not slamming that. It's just that you've got an option when you go to vote, someone who has a strong background in business, understands business, or someone who's always been on the taxpayers' money. Big difference.
Yeah, okay. I don't believe being a good sheriff is not necessarily going to make you a good senator. It's two different jobs. It's like, as I saying, a good plumber is going to make a good electrician. It doesn't necessarily mean it's two different things. And I think you've had a more of a broader experience in life on business and entrepreneurship and just the way business works, and that's a big thing. And just how you don't have small law enforcement is a great thing. I don't mean that, but it's just part of the puzzle. But
well, I back the blue. I'm not coming against
absolutely.
that. But, okay,
I absolutely do. I'm on the quorum court, and anything. Yeah. I'm very liberal with that. I don't mean liberal, but I mean I back most anything they need. I want them to have the best and because. That's an important thing nowadays too, because the world's gone crazy. I mean,
oh yeah,
and everybody's against them. And I'm really sympathetic to that.
Yeah. Well, so I hope people can understand. If they've got questions, I'm sure we'll give them the information on how to get in contact. But when I sit down with the business people that I've met with over the past 5 or 6 months, and they understand my extensive background in business, and I was on the corporate side. I was C-level. I wasn't at the top of the food chain, but I was really close. I led a division of Transamerica. And when I retired, I started my own business. So I understand what it means and what it takes to start a business. Okay. Whether you're a small business, it turns into a big business, whatever, whether you're self-employed, we can talk about the same things, because I've gone through the same ups and downs, had to jump through the same hurdles and hoops that you have as a business owner. So I understand that. Okay. Now, if I was running for a law enforcement position, then my opponent's got me on that. Okay, because that's where his background's at. But like I said, there's a big difference between enforcing law and enacting law. Okay, creating law. So you asked earlier about, if you want to know what's important to me. Number one right now for me, Keith, in the environment that we see here in the state of Arkansas is being transparency. Okay. I believe in FOIA. I believe that we as citizens should be able to hold our government officials, our elected officials accountable. And really the only way that you and I as citizens can do that, the only avenue that we have is what? FOIA, correct? Okay. If there's something that we think is kind of cockeyed or doesn't smell right, then we have the ability to at least get that information through FOIA. All right. Now, I know that there have been people that have abused that. I'm not going to be one of those people. When I say transparency, let me give you what I'm talking about. If I use the Franklin County Prison as an example, what I see, and again, remember I said that I believe that we probably need additional bed space, prison bed space. All right. But I don't believe it needs to go in Franklin County. It just doesn't make logistical sense and it doesn't make financial sense. But when that location was chosen, it was not on the list of the possible locations. All right. There were other counties that had their hands up, Keith, stating, we want the prison here in we want it in this county. We want it in this county. Okay. But all of a sudden, boom, the people in Franklin County find out that that Arkansas or Little Rock has signed a $3 million check.
And they're not that happy, correct? They're not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're unhappy with it, but they're unhappy with it, Keith, because there's no transparency. They've had meetings.
It was jammed down their throat.
They've had meetings. The constituents in Franklin County, they've had meetings where the Board of Corrections, the leadership within the Correction Department, or Department of Corrections, they were invited to answer questions, and for whatever reason, they didn't show up. So optics have a lot to do with it. So if everything is supposed to be above board and everything is good, why are people not showing up and answering questions from the people in Franklin County? Okay. Even if it's going to be a hard answer, it's a hard question, but you're going to have to answer it. I feel like that and I'm going to say kiss a few frogs, you got to kiss that frog early. Okay. It's not going to be pleasant, but you got to kiss that frog and get it over with. But right now, the reason why this thing is where it's at is because it's just festered. And the people in the leadership positions have let it fester without any reaction or interaction with the people of Franklin County. And I don't believe that's right. I believe that you have to explain to people, if as a senator, if I make a decision, and I'd like to say in my tenure as president of the senior division for Transamerica, that every decision that I made, Keith, made everybody happy. It didn't. I understand it. But somebody in that leadership position, you have to make that decision. Okay. But if you make a decision that some people don't agree with, you don't just throw them out the door and say, too bad, 90-90 boo-boo, we're going to do it anyway. No, you sit them down and you have a discussion with them and you hopefully can explain to them why we made this decision. That's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen in Franklin County, is somebody needs to get with those people and explain what's going on and be able to answer questions. And, whether or not the funding is ever passed, we I don't know. The fiscal session is coming up here in April, May this year, 2026. So who knows what's going to happen during the fiscal session? But that, when I say transparency, to me, you need to be able to be accessible and you need to be accountable to the people that put you in office. And that would be my constituents in District 16. And if, like I said, if there's a vote that I vote a certain way, that not the majority, I mean, if the majority of the people say, yeah, I want you to vote this way, but then we got other people that say no, I feel like I should be able to sit down with those people that didn't want me to vote that way and have a conversation with them and explain to them why. Okay. That's being open and transparent.
Well, I'm going to say that we all know that there's been corruption in politics for many, many many, many years before any of us were born. But the difference is, I think it's a lot more. Well, there's always been special interest, but people have caught on to this. People are catching on with social media going on and all the
Oh
media
yeah.
we have now. People are awakening to this, and they don't like it. But the government, federal, state, local, still trying to jam it down everybody's throat and tell them that they don't know any better and we know better. And I feel like I've experienced this from our current state senator that basically says, I know better than the people. Not doesn't say that out loud. I gives that, you know what I'm saying? That you get that.
Well, the way that they cast their vote kind of makes you feel that that's the way their attitude is.
I'll touch on something else, and I want we got a situation of and I'm gonna say it. In my opinion, it's worse in a lot of places than it is here. I think, but we have a problem with voter integrity. But this is something that if you don't do something about it, if it's not that bad here, it's gonna be, because the more you let it happen, it's happening all over the place. It's really happening in Texas now, and everything that happens in Texas comes this way. Weather, everything happens in Texas is gonna happen here. Just like the taking over, Texas is getting taken over by Islam. Well, people think, well, we don't have that problem. Well, you're going to if you don't start watching. So I think people and Randy is a candidate that is going to be transparent. And if you don't want the same old same, because you got a club going on in this state, you got a club. It's a club. I don't care what they say. You're in or you're out. And if you're trying to get in that club, like if you're trying to run for the first time, and me and Randy experienced this in the county level, and now he's experienced at the state level, they don't want you. They're afraid of it. They're afraid you're going to upset their apple cart. And once you get in there, they're going to try to persuade you their way, is what the idea is. Then anyway, it's a very strong structure, and it takes a lot of backbone to not cave to it, because the lobbyists have more power than the people. That's just a fact. We have become a special interest. They always say that's what the people want. No, that's not what the majority of people want. And you look at Minnesota, all these places, this stuff going on in our country that's very liberal ideas is not the majority of the people. It is special interest. They're just doling out the money. So and touch on your feeling about the voter integrity, and and that's a touchy subject, but campaign, a lot of people, most people want it more than everybody else says they don't want it, but they do.
Here's what I say when I talk about voter integrity. To me, voter integrity is voter intent. Okay, so how can we guarantee that my vote that I put in, that I intend to vote for Keith or Fred or whoever it happens to be, how can I guarantee that the voter intent is actually what's being counted? Okay. Right now, we have too many questions surrounding the computer tabulators and all of that. Okay. And you have the battle going on between paper ballots. Now, to me, if I mark a paper ballot, if I color in a circle, to me, it's pretty easy for me to tell what the voter intent is, because that's what they marked. Okay. Right. As long as ID has been checked and we got the secure ballots and all that, and you got hand counted people, then I feel like voter intent is where it's all about. And for me, I just asked the question, do you feel like you're able to guarantee the voter intent with a paper ballot? Or do you think you can guarantee the voter intent on a computer that can be programmed to basically do what they want it to do? I'm not saying that people can't cheat using a paper ballot. If people want to cheat, they can cheat, okay? But I don't understand how you can say we're 100% on this audit when the only thing you're auditing is the results that the computer spit out in the first place. You're not auditing the voter intent, okay? That's what I'm saying. That's where I feel like that we have to get a secure system to where the voter intent is what's guaranteed. You can say integrity all you want to, because they're touting right now.
Use that example, but yeah, I know you're going.
That these machines are the integrity. Well, you know what? We're number one with the Heritage Foundation. Well, guess what? Guess who was number one in 2020? The state of Georgia. What are they finding out right now in the state of Georgia? Didn't the FBI just raid and take all their ballots and all their records and all that stuff? Why? Because there was cheating going on with those machines, okay? But again, to me, the emphasis needs to be on voter intent. How can we guarantee that person, male or female, once they've said, here's my ID, this is who I am, and we got a secure paper ballot or a machine, which one of those methods can we guarantee that when that person fills in that blank on a paper ballot or pushes a button on a machine, which one of those can I guarantee that this is what the voter intended to vote for? Okay. I feel like it is paper, but to me, we got to be able to get voter intent. Now, you opened up the can of worms. Right now, the issue that we have, Keith, is voter turnout.
Yeah.
The race that you were talking about in Texas that just happened, I guess, this past week, that had been a Republican seat since 1991, Keith. Mm-hmm. That had been a Republican seat since 1991.
Tarrant County, you're talking Fort Worth.
And it flipped blue. Okay, but here's what you got to look at. There were 600,000 registered voters in that district. 94,000 voted. So what percentage is that? 15%. You only had 15% turnout on with a county that had 600,000 people. All right, 600,000 registered voters. But supposedly there were 24,000 Republicans that did not show up and vote. That's why that person lost. Okay.
And that's disgusting people that figure, well, you know what? It don't matter what I vote for, they're not going to count it. And I know you get a lot of, and I don't want people got to get off that. They got to keep driving. They got to keep pushing. They got to keep voting. They can't just give up and say, oh, well, they're going to do what they want to do. Well, that happens, but you can't let it happen. That's because we're going to lose our country if everybody keeps having the attitude that there's nothing I can do about it. That's sorry. I mean, I know it might make people mad. That's a bad excuse because there is something we can do about it.
Well, I've always, when I was growing up, my favorite subjects, I enjoyed math a little bit, but my favorite subjects were civics and social studies. Okay. History, different things like that. Civics is a social science. Basically, it is a study of the rights, responsibilities, and duties of being a United States citizen. Now, everybody wants to focus, and they're happy when we talk about your rights as a United States citizen, but they get all kind of upset when you start talking about their responsibilities and duties. Okay. There are many, and you've been in the service. I got a lot of good friends that have been in the service. There are hundreds of thousands, millions of men and women that have lost their lives fighting for the right for you and I to vote, to cast our vote. Okay. And
our own ancestors.
Yeah. For someone to say, well, it's not going to count. How do you know it's not going to count? Okay. You got to go do it anyway. For me to say,
if you don't do it, it's sure not going to count. If you don't do it, it's sure not.
If you say you want me to win, but you don't go vote, you actually are giving a better vote to my candidate or to my opponent, right? Okay. So I tell people, yeah, we want to get to a point where we can guarantee voter intent, but we got to get the people from being lethargic, from being complacent, and not caring. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is if they get off their tails and they get out and they go vote and do a little homework and find out which one of the candidates that we're looking at is the one that I'm going to vote for, that I feel like this is the stronger candidate between the two. Okay.
I can understand why people feel that way in this day and age. We are being trampled on right now. American people, American citizens are being trampled on right now, are being mistreated. There's no doubt about it. And it is disgusting. And I wake up mornings thinking, what are we going to do? But you got to keep pushing. everybody's got to stay. I mean, you're not gonna. That's exactly what they want. All these factions that want to destroy this country, the way me and you grew up, and the values and the and patriotism and why we have the things we have are from ancestors that did. Now, who did it? You can argue about. Well, this culture did more. Piss on all that. It's a group of American people who wanted to make a better way. So if we give up on it, it is surely to be gone.
Well, if you do nothing, like I said, if nothing ever changes, then nothing will ever change. And the only way that you can affect change is to go vote. You got to go vote. Okay, so let's talk about. We talked about transparency. Economic development is something that we have to focus on. Okay, job creation. And let me tell you why. We as a state, we rank 46 out of 50 in per capita income. Okay, that's not good. We got to work on a way to get that income up. We got to be able to create jobs. I believe we can do that.
Lower than that, to be honest.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's where we're at. If you Google it, if you look any of the studies, it's going to say that we're right at number 46 out of 50. Okay. Tax reform. You want to do reduction in corporate and personal income taxes to encourage investment, tax incentives to help small businesses, startups, get them started, and deregulation. We need to make it easier for small business people to be able to get into it. I mean, how many people, why do I need to why do I have to have a license to do certain things? Okay. Now, if I'm going to be a doctor or a dentist or somebody like that, sure, you need to have a license. But if I'm going to be a landscape guy, and I'm not knocking landscape, I'm using it as an example. Okay. Does everybody have to have a license to do that? You know what I mean? And to me, that needs to be looked at. We need to streamline the permit process, simplify it as far as speed up, where if someone if they're starting a business and they're going to be building, we ought to make it streamlined to where they can start the construction a whole lot easier and a lot quicker than having to wait 6 months or a year later before you start your building. Okay. So that's one of my deals. Then education. I believe education can take care of a lot of the things that we've spoken about tonight. Okay. Now, I am a big believer, and I am for choice, the LEARNS Act. Okay. Well, what I mean by that is I believe that it should be the parents' right to make that choice where their children receive their education. And I believe the tax money should follow where the parents want that to be. Okay. Now, having said that, I took the opportunity to sit down and meet with a couple of superintendents, district superintendents, a couple of principals, and because I wanted to find out, hey, because the big thing that you hear about the LEARNS Act is the impact it's having on the public schools. Well, what better way to find out is let's go to the public schools and let's find out how it's impacting them. Okay. Now, here in Benton Bryant, and when I give you this number, Benton and Bryant, around 200, 250 is what they saw as far as they lost from being in the public school, going to either private school or homeschool. Okay. I don't consider that to be a big number, but that's me. I'm not part of that. I'm not in the public school system. Okay. But what I see, the LEARNS Act is not perfect. And I'll give you an example of how I dealt with this. So, earlier I told you that I was involved in creating product in the insurance business. So somebody came to me with an idea, a concept. We got together, we got with the actuaries, the pricing people, the claims people, the attorneys. We put everything together. We put the product together, and then we put it out in the field. But the way you can tell if it needs to be worked on is from the feedback from the people that actually have to sell the product. Okay. So what's the product right now? The product is the LEARNS Act, and it was implemented in 2023, right? So we're going into, this is 2026, and they're looking at it, and I think they understand it. So what I look at is that I think the LEARNS Act is a great idea. I think the purpose of it is a fantastic idea, because I feel like that if we can focus on education for these children, for our students, then we help everything. Okay. Let me tell you the example. Being in prison ministry, you can do the numbers. About 60% of the men and women that we have incarcerated in the state of Arkansas when they were incarcerated, did not have their high school education or a GED. Okay. As a juvenile, a teen who does not have a GED or a high school education is 3 times more likely to be incarcerated than their peers that do have a high school education. Okay. So is high school education important? Well, if 60% of those incarcerated right now didn't have one or don't have one, they may have gotten one while they're in prison, but before then they didn't have it. I think that's important. Okay. But if you look at, I believe that not every student that graduated from high school or graduates from high school needs to be expected to go to a 4-year college.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm a big believer in technical schools,
Yes.
computer schools. We got one here in Saline County. Okay.
A great facility. Great facility.
It is. But here's the thing. If you go to college for 4 years, you got your arts degree, you can't use it. You can't use it for anything. You can't get a job that pays very much, but yet you have an opportunity to go to a technical school and learn HVAC or become an electrician or become a plumber or become a welder or become a nurse or computer science, or think about auto mechanics. Yeah. Auto mechanic nowadays is not changing spark plugs and timing belts. Okay. It's all computerized. All right. But the thing about it is the young man or young woman who goes to welding school and after 6 months comes out with their welding certificate, they've got a job that's going to pay them anywhere from $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. They're not coming out of college with $100,000 college debt. They're coming out with the ability to make $100,000 a year. That's where I see that if we can focus on education, early education especially, that we can maybe affect some of the prison population that we have, get them educated, and give them jobs that they can make a living out of. Okay, off of.
I believe that there's a lot of. I think we're starting to do, or a lot of people are starting to do a better job than we used to do. Say with me and you, Randy, graduating from high school, college was very promoted. It was told to be necessary to make a living. Yeah. And trade school, there wasn't really a whole lot of emphasis on that. It was kind of like, oh, you don't want to do that. That's to get your hands dirty. You want to get up here and be a white collar guy. Okay, I think we're just starting to get away from that idea. And then I think a lot of it is your lobbies from your colleges, your institutions that are trying to put that in families' minds that because, take you went to 4 years of college, colleges, you could save half the time to get someone, even if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, something you have to go to college to be, an engineer, because you can start a business without having a college education if you got a head on your shoulders. But anyway, those occupations, all that fluff, I hate to say it, but when you're a freshman in college, you graduate from high school, if you don't know English, you're in trouble already. So if you can cut through half the stuff you have to take, if you don't want to be an artist, I don't think you have to take art. So I just think sometimes it's a gimmick for them to make money and charge so much for their educations. And then they put kids out and give them a dream that's not going to necessarily happen immediately, and they're left holding the bag. So I like promoting, and there's been Mike Rowe. He has done a lot to promote in the Senate and stuff before the Senate and House of promoting these trades. They're not nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to look down on being a plumber. In fact, those are the jobs that AI will not, they'll be the last ones that get taken over by AI, because that's another issue that's going to be with the young people is what jobs are going to be taken over by AI in the next 5 to 10 years. And so you got to look at that too, because that's what I tell young people. I say, you need to look at the future of a job, not just the immediate today. How's it going to be? You're 18. How's it going to be when you're 58? How's that job going to be? Or is it going to even be there? So I agree with what you're saying, but I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And that's so, the LEARNS Act, part of the deal on the LEARNS Act is they now, I guess they're giving schools grades. Okay. And for us here in Saline County, we're very blessed. I mean, Benton school system, I think, got an A rating, an A grade, A graded A. I believe Bryant was a B. I think Bauxite. I think most of the schools here were either A or B. Okay, so we got great school systems here in Saline County. All right. We can't see that in Little Rock. Little Rock, there are several D schools and F graded schools, but in Little Rock, there's a lot of choices. All right, but here's what you have to look at. With the LEARNS Act, and they have the educational, it's the account, the EFA accounts. Right now, each student, you get, I think it's just over $6,800. Okay. You can use that to homeschool. You can use that to go to a private school, a charter school, or whatever. But a lot of your private schools cost more than $6,800. So there are some families out there that may want to put their child in a private school or a charter school, but they don't have the additional funds. Let's say it's $10,000 tuition, and the EFA account gives them $6,800. Well, now they're $3,200 short. They don't have the additional funds to take care of that. For me, what I look at is this. We need to look at the areas where they don't have a choice. I mean, Northwest Arkansas, Little Rock area, I mean, where you have a higher population, there's a lot of private schools, a lot of options as far as if you want to homeschool or go to a private school or a charter school. In the north central part of the state, the eastern part of the state, southwest part of the state, you don't have a lot of the options that we do here in central Arkansas. All right. But for me, something to think about, and I'm just trying to think outside the box where it being able for these people that I feel like if we could focus on could help them later on in life and getting a good education is there are people right now that are making enough income as far as the family goes that their kids are going to private school right now, Keith. Okay. So let's say this, if you've got someone that's making $500,000, and I'm just using it as an example, it ain't written in stone. If you've got a family that's making $500,000, don't you feel like right now that they could actually be sending their kid to a private school?
They want, yeah.
Okay. So here's what I look at is let's look at this and let's look at the LEARNS Act and let's look at some of the families that they've got kids that would benefit to be able to go to a private school, but the tuition is too high. But now we've got families that make a certain level of income that they can already afford to send their kids to private school. Why don't we tell them that if you make a certain dollar, if you make over a certain dollar amount, you're not actually going to have access to that $6,800, but you can allow that to be utilized by other students. Now, here's what I learned in the business world, that if you take something away, Keith, you got to give something back. So somebody's going to look at you and go, well, yeah, but Randy, you took away my $6,800. You're making $500,000 a year or $1 million a year, whatever. I don't think it hurts you that much, but you're going to help somebody else. But let's do this. You're not going to actually get the $6,800, but we're going to give you a tax credit. Okay. So now I took something away, but I gave something in your favor back to you to where you see some benefit from it. I don't know if that'll work, but I've had people that talk to me about the fact that there are families out there that are getting that $6,800 and they're already sending their kids to private school because they make $500,000 or $1 million a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's find a way that we can put that money together and utilize that money for the kids that their families can't afford the additional $3,000 or $4,000 for tuition. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's just something that I look at, but you got to look at if a child does not learn to read, they have to be able to read to learn. But if they can't learn to read, they're not going to be able to read to learn. So that to me,
that's getting out of high school that can't read.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand that you have to be able to teach the kids to read. And if you teach them to read and then we make it available for them to, I mean, when I was growing up in high school, Keith, I mean, we had this thing called SHOP, right? You could
Industrial arts in the 8th grade.
yeah,
Mandatory.
you learned how to be a carpenter, you learned how to build, you learned how to make stuff. You
Learned
had auto
pearls.
mechanics. You got auto mechanics. What's wrong with that? If we've got a student,
I think it should still be required.
well, I just think that why can't we make, if somebody wants to be a plumber and they already know they want to be a plumber or they want to be an electrician, why can't we make that available in high school for them as a freshman or a junior, and let them get some education while they're in high school? And when they get out of high school, they're already kind of ahead of the ball game when they go to the Saline County Technical College and learn
I
how.
completely agree with that. We
I have
need
to
more
give
of that
kudos.
right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to give kudos to the Career Center, Saline County Career Center. If I'm not mistaken, I believe to go to that, which they have some great trade programs there offered to kids. But if I'm not mistaken, you don't have to be you have to be a Saline County resident, but say you don't have to go to like Bryan High School or necessarily Benton High School, even though it's in Benton. You know, it's welcome to the county students, which I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. So anyway, so I hope that the people that listen, if you've got additional questions, you know, I've got websites. So my campaign website is SAMS 4, the number 4, Arkansas.com. You can go to that website if you want to donate. You can ask questions. Feel free to do that. You know, if you want to get in more depth as far as what we talked about tonight with me, just give me a reach out. You can leave me a message on that website. My cell phone number is 501-249-2343. 501-249-2343. Shoot me a text message. I'll call you back. But I'm very interested.
I think Kevin's putting your deal up right now.
All right, cool. That's good. I appreciate that. But I want folks to understand who I am and why I feel like that I am the best candidate for District 16 Senate, that I will represent the people. I will be the voice of the people. And that big difference is special interest is not going to be who I'm going to be beholden to. I'm going to be beholden to the people.
I know you well enough personally. We've worked together enough in politics, running campaigns that Randy is telling you the truth. He's not just telling you what you want to hear, which a lot of politicians, God, so many of them will just tell you what you want to hear and then do the opposite. And he's not that guy. You know, is anybody that's in an office going to be perfect? No, because human beings are not perfect. So, but you're going to get what you're looking for if you want transparent and a change in the everyday clubhouse government we have right now. And there is no doubt, I don't care if they get mad at me or not, our state government is a clubhouse government. It's like a country club. You're in or you're out, and that needs to end. And it's going to take some time, but we need guys like Randy in there. It's going to be a slow process to get over or change but we got to start somewhere. You know, we got to start somewhere. There's very few guys in there right now. I'm not going to say everybody, but there's a few good senators we got.
There are some good ones in there now that
it
I'm
ain't a
working
majority.
with. Yeah.
It ain't anywhere near a majority. So, you know, Randy, I appreciate you being on. You know, I think you answered a lot of good questions and enlightened a lot of folks. And he's gonna be making some more appearances before election day. And you'll be seeing his face. You'll be hearing from him. This ain't the end tonight. You're gonna be hearing a lot from Randy. So, Randy, I appreciate you coming with us.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate the opportunity, brother. Thank you so much. Got to vote, folks. You got to vote.
Yep. And you can look him. He's easy to find if you want to know about him. So just look him up. And I can say this: he's a Christian man. He tells the truth. He cares. He don't have to have this job. He's doing it because he wants to do it. He's not in here to be a professional politician. He could be doing a lot of easier things in his life at this time. So he's doing it because he wants to help the people and he cares about what's happening to the state and this country. So everybody, Saline County is out tonight.
Have a good night, everybody.